This is AEW Unrestricted. I'm Aubrey Edwards here with my BFF, Will Washington. How are you doing, buddy?
I am doing wonderful. It's a great time. I couldn't be happier right at this very moment as both somebody in professional wrestling and as a fan of professional wrestling.
Right? God, it's so good. I was just having a thought the other day. Have you been at AEW for a year yet?
Yes.
Oh, wow. 1, congrats. 2, now that it's been a year, what are you most grateful for?
I mean, the obvious answer is like Tony, like obviously, like, and,
how could you
and
not
just for giving me the opportunity, but like I have a great relationship with Tony Khan and we have great conversations, and I am truly thankful to consider Tony a friend. You know what though? Honestly, it is being around a lot of the names that I've been a fan of my entire wrestling life, and I am so grateful for that. Like there was a time I won't fully go into detail, but I was sitting with Bryan Danielson one day and we were talking about something and it led in a roundabout way. And I finally just decided to ask a story I'd been curious about pretty much for like the last 10 years. And like, it was something that happened in professional wrestling on TV. And I was like, I always wanted to know the story behind this. And so I just asked him and he just told me. And I was like, you know what? That finally makes sense. It completely makes sense. I now have context to this entire thing. And this is something that I can now rest assured knowing that I know for the rest of my life. And it's like one of those cool things that I'm incredibly grateful for. But no, just honestly, just the opportunity to get to look, I spend a lot of my time thinking about what's next. I never I've had some really
It's hard to enjoy the moment.
It's hard to enjoy the moment, right? You know, a few weeks ago, I had a segment at it was a contract signing, and I was really happy with the way it turned out, and I was really happy with how everything went with that. And then as soon as it was over, like we hit the light on Dynamite, and I go, God, what do I do next? Like,
it's like my magnum opus. I'm done.
I was like, how do we top that? But literally, I then spent the next day just working on some new stuff, and I felt like what we followed up with was just good. But that was just one of those things where I'm just grateful to get to work with the guys I get to work with the gals I get to work with. I've made some really, really great friends. You're one of them. And no, just this has been a great year, and I'm glad you asked. You kind of shocked me with that, but I had to check the calendar, and I'm like, yeah, right at this point, I will have been at a year. I started May 3rd, and when this episode is dropping, yes, I will have been here a year.
Damn! Wow, wild. I'm also grateful for you. I'm also grateful for Tony. I mean, like, just as a fun side note, like when both of my cats unfortunately passed away at the end of last year, I had a couple people send me flowers. He sent me flowers for each cat and a handwritten note. Which I don't know how he did that because he's in Florida and I'm in Seattle, and somehow that happened.
He's so incredibly thoughtful.
He's such a thoughtful guy. But like on top of that, it's like he's creating this awesome environment where all of us get to like just work hard and do our best and be absolutely like to push ourselves. And we get to bring in all of this new talent every now and then that continues to push ourselves even more. Like I didn't know that I could be the person I am until I joined AEW, and now I have all these awesome opportunities to perform at Wembley and in front of all of these crowds all over the world and all of this crazy stuff. Like I used to make video games and now I yell at people for a living, and it's like that's so absolutely incredible to think about it in the grand scheme of things. So we've got so many awesome people at AEW that just make all of our lives better.
Yes, we do.
Including, who are we talking to today?
Aubrey.
Yes.
We are joined by the one, the only, the Aerial Assassin, one of the hottest names in AEW, coming off of AEW Dynasty.
And my mom's favorite wrestler, by the way.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Coming off of AEW Dynasty, we're talking about one of the figureheads, one of the faces of this dynasty, this new era of AEW. We're talking about the Aerial Assassin, Will Ospreay. Will, thanks for being with us.
How is everyone doing today?
Wonderful.
Morning
These
for you
are always,
guys, isn't it?
yeah, it's weird. It's like technology is great because it allowed us to like do this while Will is still across the pond and the other Will and I are still stateside. I'm actually super impressed that you've Will Ospreay. I'm going to have to be using a lot of last names during this, I guess.
Oh, I have to say, no, this is the bane of my existence at work, by the way. Like
Will Hobbs, Will Ospreay, Will Washington.
Yeah, we have this match to talk about, but in the Battle of Wills we did a few weeks ago between Will Ospreay and Will Hobbs, I spent all day sitting in a creative meeting and somebody's talking about Will, and I'm like, well, which one? Are you talking about me? Or are you talking about Ospreay? Or are you talking about Hobbs? And now we're at a point where we have to just use last names at this point.
Ospreay.
I think.
There we go.
You can call me Bill if you want. Call me Bill.
Young Billy.
Yes,
Billy Goat.
Oh, because you got old Bill.
We got
Gunn.
Big Bill.
We do.
Yeah,
We got Big Bill. We got Billy Gunn.
Oh, for fuck's sake, there's so many Bills now.
Oh my God. What are we going to do? I don't know. We're going to come up with new nicknames, I guess, for this. I don't know. But I'm just super impressed that you have chosen to stay in the UK after signing with AEW. Because as someone who chose to stay in the spot where they have like an existing life and they've planted roots, and because of that, you have to put up with super long flights every week. I have an incredible amount of respect for you because at the time that I'm drinking my morning coffee, you are eating dinner at the time that we're recording this podcast. So congrats to you, man. What has life been like adjusting to crazy time changes?
I prefer it. I'll be honest with you. I'm doing real well with it. I time my sleeps on the plane. I get up, I move around a little bit. I have a conversation with everyone. If someone's awake, I go, "What film you watching, mate?" And then I just have a little conversation with some guy called Rupert. It's real nice. Like I don't mind it. Like, do you know what I mean? You got to remember, like for me, doing the flights from Japan and back, that was like 15 hours. And sometimes I would go 15 hours over there, stay for about like 36 hours and then come back. So like, mate, I honestly, I don't mind it. It's not the worst thing in the world for me. So for me now, adjusting to it. And then every now and again when there's a pay-per-view, I just might as well stay the week. So I'll go bother Kyle. He owes me for all the years that he used to live with me. So like,
just go hang out in Chicago.
Make room.
Yeah, it's he mentioned that before when we talked to him. So you've basically been kind of rooming with him when you're here, right?
Yeah, him and Davis and Showa Umino, who's the New Japan lad, they all stayed around my house when the pandemic kicked in. So I looked after them all. I had no problem doing it. They're all my boys. I love them dearly. So it wasn't like at no point were they like being overbearing or too much or like they were in my space. Like we all loved one another dearly. So it was always good. And there's a bunch of stories that we could never tell. So they're the best times, eh?
It's unrestricted, but it's not that unrestricted.
It's as unrestricted as you want it to be.
I leave all the stories that happen at my ass.
There we go. Oh, that's probably a good way to live life, honestly.
So I wanted to talk about the start in AEW because you got to come in a very unique way in that you were not unfamiliar to the AEW audience. You basically came in with an AEW resume behind you. You know, you've gotten to wrestle the Elite. You got to wrestle Orange Cassidy. You had wrestled Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, a who's who of AEW stars before ever getting the All Elite graphic. And so I want to start with that experience. What was that experience like prior to actually signing? And did that help kind of lay the foundation for this being your choice?
Oh, yeah, mate. Like, I mean, TV style wrestling is way different to what I was used to in New Japan. Like, I mean, with New Japan, you show up to the venue, stretch out, figure out what you're going to do strategy-wise, and go out there and go wrestle. I guess with the TV style wrestling, you have so many things to take into consideration. And once again, I've always said wrestling is a little bit like a concert, right? So the audience are your main instrument. And for the last, I can't even remember how long it's been, but like the last 3 years in Japan, I didn't have any instruments. Like the crowd were dead silent. So then like when you'd come over and like learn how to adjust from it. Hello again. But like learning how to adjust from it all, like it was always nice, and it gave me an idea of what to expect with American style wrestling and American TV wrestling. So I liked it, and the fact that I got to work guys so high up in the card. Like, I mean, I got to work with an Orange Cassidy, got to work with Jericho, got to work with Kenny. Like, they're the who's who of the Elite, really. So, like, I personally, like, I relish the challenge, and getting to know come here now, I have more of a better understanding of what it actually takes to make it to the top here.
It's incredible. there's so many of those matches that before we even got the graphic that are really memorable. But I was so grateful I got to work with you. Say hello.
Go on.
I love when you're living life and just like dogs pop into the background, partners,
Mate,
kids.
Any minute, I'm telling you, a cat will come up here any minute now. I'm telling you.
Oh, Will's is going to pass through the screen at least once or twice.
She already has, so that's
I've missed it already. I'm so used to it. I've missed it. Anyway, I was super grateful I got the chance to work with you at Wembley against Chris Jericho, which I'm sure for you was an absolutely incredible experience. What was that like going back to Wembley or going to your home country and performing at Wembley in front of 81,035? Is that the number?
Well, that's the flipping thing that's on my arm. Like,
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
right
buddy.
number, right? You guys got that right number, right?
There we go.
Number kept changing, for God's sake. But like, mate, I honestly cannot tell you enough how much that moment meant to me, man. Like, once again, I wasn't employed with AEW. I'm a complete outsider. They just had a partnership with New Japan. I got the call saying that I'd like to be like they'd like me to be part of Wembley, and like, you know me, I was just probably thinking I'll be in a battle royal. That'll be fun. And then turns out I'm wrestling the first world champ, who's like generally like a guy that I grew up idolizing and watching, and like have so much respect for. So to be put in that position and like in a prominent position as well, is like guys like Kenny Omega were in like 6-man tags. Like, do you know what I mean? So like I was in a position as a singles wrestler. And the day before I was wrestling in Rev Pro, where they done one of their, I don't know if it was their largest attendance, but I think it was about like 4,000 people there. So it's not even 5% It's not even 5% of what was in Wembley. So then my mind started playing tricks on me. I was thinking like, none of these people are even going to know who I am. Like, I've travelled up and down the UK numerous of times, so many times, but like every single time, like you might wrestle in front of a new person for the first time. And I can't tell you how amazing it was to the moment that elevator started hitting, like the da-da-da-da-da-da, and people like reacted and I could hear them. And you're like, flipping hell, they know the song. And then as you're walking down, like you're hearing like row after row after row as you're walking, they're singing the song. They're going like, oh my God, you know the words? So, and then you're looking up and fireworks are shooting over the top of you. And you're just like, it's not some mad little dream, innit? Like, there's crazy professional wrestlers that have made like way more money or way more famous than I have ever been. And they've never wrestled in Wembley Stadium. Mm-hmm. And there's this, mate, I look like someone who, like, I look like I work in Tesco's or a supermarket. And here I am wearing my Assassin's Creed jacket. I've got my flag draped over, and all of a sudden I'm a professional wrestler, and all of these people know my existence. They know the reputation that precedes me. And I got to live out a dream of saying that I'm one of the best professional wrestlers in the world. And I got to prove it. Like, I didn't have a contract, but like that's the trust that Tony had in me to go out there, not screw him over in one of the biggest events that AEW has ever done, the biggest event AEW has ever done. Not screw him over, not behave like an arsehole, just go out there and show him what professionalism actually is. And to do what I did and just being a part of that team, it was incredible. I can't find the words. It was like a movie, mate.
Man, what a time! I remember again thinking about it from that same perspective of, again, because that was how we felt about the entire product, right? Where it's like, we travel around the country, we travel pretty much every part of the United States, and it's like little by little we see little pockets of who knows what AEW was, but then to travel to that part of the world and all of a sudden see that, oh my God, AEW is being seen by this many people, is enjoyed by this many people. And so I can imagine that same for you, where it's like, I'm not even a part of the company at this time period, but all of these people have all come from all different parts of Europe to come see this show, and they all know who I am. And yeah, that's got to be an incredible feeling.
It's honestly incredible. Like the gratitude that I have for anyone that's like, if you bought a ticket to see me, or if you're even like, you didn't even know who I was and you just saw the British flag, you went, hey, home boy. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even if you didn't like that, like the gratitude that I have for AEW and all the AEW fan base for coming out and supporting. a true alternative, like the first wrestling company to run Wembley Stadium, what, like 30 years? To be able to do that, like, that speaks volumes of where AEW is. Like, no one would have had the balls to run Wembley, like, on a grand scale. You could have put whatever logo up there, but no one had the balls. But Tony had the balls because he believes in his roster. He believes in the guys that are putting their bodies on the line to give every fan that has just enjoyed professional wrestling something just to crave and something to be excited for. And like the fact that he's doing it again this year, and this time I'm actually part of the company, man. Like, I'm excited, man. I'm so excited just to be a part of it. I'm looking forward to it, whoever I'm going to be wrestling, because it's just one of those things where, like, I look at what I did with Jericho and I think that was amazing, but I know I can top it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I am highly looking forward to, again, we've got All In coming up in Wembley here very soon. It's like right around the corner. Every time, I was thinking back in December, like, oh, that's a long way off, and all of a sudden it feels like it's just right around the corner. And
come on, to get your tickets. Go and get your tickets now. Yeah. If there's any British people that are listening to this, go buy your ticket.
AEW.
I'll get on the underground with you, son.
AEWTix.com. This man will be there, and I have a feeling that he's going to be doing some incredible stuff on that show.
You have a feeling, Mr. I Work in Creative.
It's whatever, But the other thing I wanted to talk about was just before All In, you also wrestled Forbidden Door.
Yes.
And you had a match with one Kenny Omega. And a man you were quite familiar with, a man that you had really had a rivalry with that went on for years prior to AEW, as far as just social media alone, you guys taking shots at each other. You seem like you had something to say there, but
yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because, like, the respect that I do have for Kenny, man, like, I respect him so much. And the story goes, when he left New Japan to form AEW, he took me and Jay to one side, and he said how much he cares about New Japan and that you guys have got to be the standard bearer of it. You guys have got to take the flag and you have to run with it. And you know what I mean, man? Like, I idolize Kenny. Like, he's the man, especially if you followed any of his stuff during that golden age of New Japan. Like, no one could touch Kenny. So then to get his rub and to get, like, him being like, you can do it, I believe in you. And then for him to just, like, I felt like I was doing it, man. Like, especially as a junior heavyweight. Like, he left. You have no idea how hard it is to be promoted as a junior heavyweight. And I was putting New Japan Cup, I was putting a G1 Climax. I'm the only guy to do, like, the Cup, the Super Juniors, the G1 Climax, and the Junior Tag League all in one calendar year. No one else has done that. It's just me. And that's as a junior. And then the pandemic kicked in, which was hell. And I don't even want to, like, tell, like, that was the worst thing that can ever happen to New Japan. It messed up a bunch of the foreigners that were over there. But yet still, with our hands shackled together, thrown at the bottom of the ocean, I somehow still managed to breathe life into New Japan somehow. I was able to put on these amazing matches in flipping silence. Like, the crowd weren't allowed to cheer. That was it. Like, doing 46-minute matches in just this. It rips your soul apart for what professional wrestling is, because it is a concert. It's about performing, like, back and forth with one another. And to have him, who has never been under those situations, who has never been locked in a room for 2 weeks with a window that opened this much, and just to be in that room with all of your thoughts and everything that's dark in your side. Everyone's got mental health issues these days. Everybody's, like, struggling. And to be locked in a room in Japan, where sometimes you weren't even allowed Uber Eats, for God's sake. So you were just given these bento boxes and hope you enjoy sushi. Like, sometimes you didn't. Like, I like sushi, I don't mind it. But, like, sometimes it was, like, real rough on guys. And to have him, and it wasn't just him, there were other AEW wrestlers, but he was a prominent one because he was there, he lived it, and he understood. But, like, no one could understand this. Yet somehow, we still managed to find a way of breathing. We still managed to find a way of kicking and screaming. And for him to belittle my work, I've never looked at him the same. I never will look at him the same. I've lost all types of respect for him. I don't like him as a human being. In terms of, like, like he was my wall when Wrestle Kingdom came around. Like I've got no problem saying it. It whooped my ass, man. Like it was 80% him and 20% me. So by the time Forbidden Door came around, it was in his back garden, man. Like it was in Canada, in front of his hometown, man. Like I just wanted to antagonize him. I just wanted him to feel like even a fraction of what I felt during Tokyo Dome, man. Like 'cause I was the hometown boy. I don't like people are happy to see him, but people respect the fact that I stayed the course and that I breathed life in this place when he buried the company, man. Like on numerous times on being the elite with the Bucks, I've just got no respect for him. I have no respect for the guy whatsoever now. But like, do I respect his ability? Of course I do. But him as a human being, I couldn't give a toss about him anymore.
Damn. Tell me how you really feel, Will.
Tell me that. Tell me. I don't want to say the line, but just like, would anyone accept that? Like,
I see exactly where you're coming from. Like it makes sense. Like I was not in the same situation you were in, so I can't speak to it. But yeah, I mean, it's an incredible thing to see what you did at New Japan and the success that they have coming out of the pandemic, because it was rough on everybody. Like everybody in wrestling, like all of a sudden everything is just kind of like, meow. I actually want to talk more about your time at New Japan, but we got to take a break real quick here on AEW Unrestricted. AEW Unrestricted, Will, and Aubrey. I'm the only one not named Will on this call, but we're having lots of fun chats with one of our newest signees and newest additions of All Elite Wrestling. I say new like it was yesterday, but like you feel like you've been here since like the beginning.
He got his All Elite graphic in November, so like even that
was like yesterday.
Yeah, it was like yesterday.
I have no idea where I'm flying week to week. Whatever. It's just like I still accidentally write 2022 on everything, so whatever. Screw it. We talked a little bit about your time in New Japan and, you know, through the pandemic and all of that. But you and I actually had a conversation recently where I had said you were in New Japan longer than I have been in wrestling. And 8 years is a long time. Like, what initially brought you to Japan? Because you were still very early in your career, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I mean, Revolution Pro Wrestling would do joint shows with New Japan, like Global Wars, and I just got lucky, man. Like AJ left, or like I wrestled Okada on a show in Reading back in like 2015, and you just couldn't have like put like a better puzzle piece together. I was against Okada, who was the world champ at the time. Was he the world champ? I don't know if he was world. No, I think he was world champ. So he was the world champ. I had Gator ringside, who was the booker. I had Tiger Hattori, who was the guy in the office, and I had Tanahashi peeking back through the curtain going, "This kid's great." Like, so I had like the perfect formula. And at first it was just going to be like, we're just going to bring me in for the Super Juniors, which I was absolutely fine with. That was my dream. Like, I just wanted to go wrestle in Japan and do the Super Juniors. But then AJ left, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson left, and Shinsuke Nakamura left. So there was this big hole, and they needed a new junior heavyweight star. And then in comes this pillock. And then they was like, and I was always like real thankful because AJ put me over to the office and said like, you should get Will to come in, and that's my hero, man. Like AJ was like the sole reason I started wrestling. So yeah, I joined New Japan in 2016. I often forget it so much, man. Like I was there for 8 years of my life. I still feel like a 22-year-old now, but like I'm not. I'm 30 and I feel my knees and my back hurts all the time.
Yeah, and that was honestly, you know, again, you talked about that being the bit of a renaissance period for New Japan, and really, you know, that was a period where Kenny Omega and Okada and all of those guys really were kind of the centerpiece and the focal point of New Japan Pro Wrestling. But you were creating so much buzz in the junior heavyweight division, and it was so interesting to watch your rise in that period because there was all of this buzz here in the States among independent wrestling fans of, you know, oh, you've seen Will Ospreay in New Japan, you've seen what he's doing here, but have you seen what he's killing over here in the Indies? Have you seen this? And like little clips would start to spark up here and here and here, and you're generating all of that buzz. Did you really feel at that moment what you were starting to accomplish?
I feel like I was learning the trade at first because once again, like when you step into New Japan, it is a different territory. I'm not just wrestling just to get gifts and clips now. I am learning the trade of what professional wrestling is and learning a business. And not only that, but like learning bits about myself, like learning how to be a man. And like, I have no problem saying it, but like I really struggled because I feel like I was searching for who I was myself, and like I felt like my opinion should have been heard. But the reality was no one gives a fuck about my opinion. I should just kept my mouth shut all the time, and I wouldn't have ended up in a lot of the trouble that I was in. But I feel like I found out so much about myself from learning from my mistakes and learning like I like how I messed up, and I let a lot of fans down with my behaviour and my immaturity. That by the time that 2019 started coming in, I learned the trade of what professional wrestling was. And like I wrestled guys like Shibata and Kushida and Hiromu, Okada, Tana. I didn't wrestle Tana at that point, but then it was like Kenny was rumoured on leaving, and they were edging me towards the heavyweight. So they were like seeing that I was almost like dominating the junior heavyweight division, and they were like, okay, like he's got the size, he's tall, like see what you can do against our heavyweight division. And I was swimming in these waters, like to my surprise as well. I was doing very well at it, and it was when I wrestled Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom, and I won the never openweight title, and then it was just from there, just plain sailing. I really found my footing in it, and it was just a nice slow rise. Like 2019 was incredible for me, and I was still a junior heavyweight.
That's insane. It's absolutely insane. I think the first time I actually was introduced to you was your match with Ricochet back in 2016. Which was like, at the end of the day, like super controversial because all the old guard and wrestling came through and was like, this is not how you do it. I'm like, I don't know. That looks pretty dope, man.
I think Nick Wayne actually said like, oh, it was the match that got me into wrestling. I was like, oh my God.
Right? Oh man, doesn't that make you feel old all of a sudden? You're like, ugh.
Honestly, yeah. No, it started to like, a couple of the lads have even said, like, if you look around, you can see, like, the influence that you've had on a few lads. And it's so humbling, man. It's honestly, like, it does take my breath away a little bit because a lot of the time I do generally think, I've just been doing stuff over in England and Japan, like two small islands, in comparison to America. I think if you put England and Japan together, it's still not the size of Texas, for God's sake, do you know what I mean? So the fact that, like, I've done all this within New Japan and the British Indies and just dipping my toes into America, like it blows my mind, and it really just takes my breath away. Like how cool this situation is that I've had influence on like a younger generation, because I still feel like I am in that younger generation. I'm only 30.
You are. And again, that's why when we talk about the future of the business, we talk about the future of AEW. You know, in a lot of ways, it very much feels like you're the present, but there's still so much more to go. Here's something I wanted to ask you. So speaking of which, you know, we when everybody talks about Will Ospreay, they talk about Will Ospreay, the in-ring performer, and as they should. I think there's a lot you bring to the table there, and that's there's no question about that. But one of the things that I think at least initially catches people off guard is how good of a promo you truly are.
Oh my
God. And where that came to be. Because I know that, you know, peeling back the curtain in AEW a little bit, promos are a thing I work on quite a bit. And it can be anywhere from giving somebody some bullet points to fully scripting out every word that's being said. I'll do either one of those things, just depending on what the show needs. Because at the end of the day, and I'm talking to the audience, you as a viewer, should really know the difference. As long as what's being said is being said. But you in particular, I remember the first time I had to come to you for a promo segment, and it was basically just coming with some ideas, and you had everything else. You knew exactly what to do. You knew exactly what you were going to put out there. You just needed a time, and you just went. I want to talk about your confidence in your promo ability first off, and where you feel like that developed.
I've never been a good promo. I'll be honest with you. I've never been like,
what is this?
No, honestly, like if you look at like some of the stuff that I did in New Japan, like this is something that I do credit New Japan for. Like after a match, like as soon as you're done, so like you could be pissing blood, you could be like dying from exhaustion. They're like, comment, like, so I want to thank my mum, like, do you know what I mean? So like after time, you're like dying, so they would force you in a weird way to do promos, and it's not really instructed like what you can and can't say. So you would just sometimes ramble. And a lot of the time I just didn't really know what to say. It's only now, like, I honestly, like, after the pandemic, I went home and I just hang out with my mates that were down the pub that are, like, clearly on some type of drugs going, like, down local English pubs down there. And I just hang out with them. And this is just who I am. I'm just a charming person. I'm everyone's mate. Like, I get along with everyone. I don't know. I'm an happy chap. I like getting everyone involved as well. Like, I know that's one of the things that I need to, like, focus on the camera. And this is where I have ADHD. And, like, it's one of those things you can tell because when I'm cutting a pro, I can't make eye contact with people. And I know, like, I need to work on it. But it's just something I've had for, like, flipping ages, not realised about it. I only found out I had ADHD when I was in, like, 2019 in Japan. So, like, straight away you're going, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, you're like, I'm so impulsive. I get it now. And, like, so they're the things I struggle with. But this is just how I talk. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is how I talk. This is how I, like, if I was in a room full of my mates there and they were like, oh, tell the story of, like, when you, I don't know, you beat up the guy down the road. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like, this is how I talk. I can't help it. But, like, I guess there's two things I put it down to. I'm a very charming man. My mum raised me right. My mum raised me to have manners and just look after the people around me. Like I said, I'll happily walk your nan across the road if you need to. But if you want me to beat up the guy over there, I can. I'll do it. But, like, and I feel like the other side is, I think generally people are actually happy to see somebody come into AEW and is actually happy to be at work. I'm actually generally excited to be at work. This is great. And I don't think people realise the opportunities we have. And, like, once upon a time, this didn't exist. It was just WWE in Japan and Ring of Honor. That was it. Like, and like a TNA. So, like, for me, like, coming in here, like, I was never going to go to WWE. Like, I mean, there was talk about it, but just the position that I'm in right now with my family, I don't want to move. I don't want to relocate. My kids just started school. If you generally, like, dug into, like, my missus and, like, her journey within pro wrestling, it's like, it's talked about through our country, but just, like, it hasn't reached anywhere else. But, like, my main focus is making sure that she's all right and that and my family and her social circle are within reach. Like, I can endure the travel. I've been doing it for bloody ages. So, like, for me now, it's just like, I get to come in here and I'm on national TV, and I generally thought I'd never be in this position. I thought I was just going to be the kid in Japan for the rest of my life, and I was happy with that. I was more than happy to be the kid in Japan. But this opportunity came up, and I just couldn't turn it down because every single time I've come here, I've really enjoyed myself. And it's just one of those days where I was like, what could I do if I was a part of this full time? And it excites me. It excites me for all the guys that I could wrestle. It excites me because the fan base that have, like, heard rumours about, like, what I could do. And on the first day that I come here, I knock it out of the park with Takeshita. I run out, I grab the ball and bring it back for him and go, set me up for another one. Like, I'm just happy to be here. I feel like that translates to my promos. It translates to who I am as a person. I don't know, I'm a very happy person. It takes a lot to fuck me off.
But I think that's one of the reasons why you are so great at promos is because so much of your authentic self comes through. Like, I know that every time you're in the ring with a microphone, I'm hearing Will Ospreay. I'm hearing the guy that I ran into at the gym who called me a little chicken pot pie that morning. Like, it's just like, you feel like you know you and you're rooting for you. And I think that's why you have such a great promos. It's such a unique style, but you're not hiding who you are, and you're making sure that your love for wrestling is known in every word you're saying, and your love for AEW is known in every word you're saying. So I think that's why you're a great promoter.
Yeah, I'm your mate down the pub. Like, you know, and that's the funny bit. If I saw any of the fans out in a pub, I'd generally be like, right, first round's on me, let's have a chat. And I'll just sit around and talk with people. I just like it. I'm a weird person.
I mean, you're asking Rupert on the plane what he's watching on the show, so clearly this is just a thing that you do.
He was watching Batman.
Which one?
The one with Robert Pattinson in it. I like it. It's good.
Oh, the Batman. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great one.
I watched it in Japan for the first time. I could tell you some funny stories about that.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm so excited. Anyway, we've got more coming up here on AEW Unrestricted. Let's take a break real quick, and then we'll come back and chat more with Will Ospreay.
AEW Unrestricted. Aubrey Edwards is there. Will Washington's here. But most importantly, Will Ospreay is here, and
Yay.
we're talking about all things. We're talking about his journey to AEW, his arrival in AEW, and I want to touch on something that you kind of finished the last segment with, which is Revolution with Takeshita. That you came in and had an incredible match with one of the best performers that AEW has, and one that I think everybody kind of knew. Like, literally, as we're putting the card together, everybody's talking about, please don't make me follow Will Ospreay and Takeshita, because they all knew.
It was literally the question of the day. Every match I had was like, I'm not after Will and Takeshita, right? It's like, nope, you're good.
Yeah. Nobody wanted to follow you guys because everybody knew what was going to happen. I had a friend at that show. I want to tell the story really quick. Shout out to my friend Heidi. But Heidi's fairly new to professional wrestling as a whole. Not only did she not know who Will Ospreay was, she didn't know who Takeshita was. She didn't know who half the roster was. She was really just there because her friends dragged her to see Sting's final match. But when she came away from that show with her first real wrestling experience, the only thing she could talk about was how awesome Will Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita was.
Yes.
And so just the idea that somebody could see this for the first time and experience that. What is that like? What is that? What goes into creating something like that?
The person that I'm in the ring opposite, listen, I could wrestle a broomstick if you want me to. I don't think it'll be that good. I could do
It'd
my
still be
best.
match of the year.
Yeah, I'll give it a great Oscar. It'll flipping suck, but I'll do my best. But just the guy that I'm opposite with is dude, it's Takeshita. I've been a fan of his for ages. First time I saw him was 2019 over in DDT. And I straight away knew it. I was just this guy is incredible. He's one of the best wrestlers that I've ever seen. I've been a fan of him since. I just never thought we'd ever wrestle one another. It was only when AEW came in and they got him and we started working together within the Callis family. I was like, this is great, but the only way we're going to get better is if we test each other, if we wrestle one another. And obviously that idea was thrown around for my debut. I just couldn't think of a better way to debut because it was just all right, 25 minutes. What you got? And it was just you ain't seen nothing yet, bro.
Oh
I just went out there with him, and I just think it was just a shake hands afterwards, and just whatever happens. But fuck me, my arse after that match, mate. I will say it till the cows come home. That is the most painful thing that has ever happened to me in a match ever. But not enough to stop the match. But just my arse was hurting so much. It was flipping blue afterwards. And but for me, having all that reaction, having all that expectation, delivering, even in the pain that I was in, going backstage, having this giant ice pack and this weird drink that looked like piss. And I'm
the electrolytes, yep.
The electrolytes, yeah.
But they're so lovely, actually. And then laying on the flipping table. I was laying on the table, I was just crying, my arse hurts so much. And then I felt someone grab my hand and he went, Mr. Ospreay. And I looked up and it was Ric Flair. I was like, oh, stand back up again, agony, my arse is killing me. And being yes, sir. And he was just you're everything you've said and more. And I was like, oh.
I felt that for you in that moment. And I remember thinking, because I was sitting at go position next to Sanjay, who was the producer on that match. And we were talking about the fact that, this coming Wednesday, it's going to be Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay. And, we're all talking about, man, this match was already in full gear. We're man, him and Kyle are going to kill it this Wednesday. And as soon as that hit, I remember thinking, oh, there's no fucking way. There's no way that this man is going to wrestle Kyle Fletcher
he ain't gonna be cleared
on Wednesday.
You have no idea, mate. You have no idea. I can cut my arm off. I go, it's just a flesh wound. Send me out there.
The worst part is that I actually believe that. I've seen enough of Will Ospreay in person to know that, yeah, you could cut his arm off. He'll still wrestle next week. And he'll put on a banger, match of the year, whatever.
I'm cooked, mate. I just think, what's the worst that happened? What, you're going to damage more my brain? Well, there's no sense, there's no feeling, bro.
We've already established you're not the smartest guy, and you had to dumb down your promos for Japan.
Thick as shit, mate. But great wrestler.
Fantastic wrestler. Speaking of which, so it's for those that have ever even heard of Assassin's Creed, it's very clear that you have this, it has a large influence on you with the cape, the hidden blade being your finishing move, all of these things. How has this game had an impact on you as a wrestler, as a person? Because I love hearing when someone has a game that like means that much to them.
When we were training, so my trainers were Greg Burridge and Gary Van Horn, two UK wrestlers. They would promote Lucha Britannia, which is more of a cabaret show than a wrestling show. It was a cabaret show that featured wrestling. And they would open a training school, and when you graduate, they would just give you a gimmick. So, like, one kid got graduated, and it was just like, okay, you're the Silver Lizard. And they go, well, what does the Silver Lizard do? And they go, oh, no, you fucking figure it out. Like, yep. So then my gimmick was, like, Dark Britannico. And but then, like, people wanted to know who the guy was underneath the mask. And once again, I looked like a geezer that works in Tesco. So they were like, you need something about you. And, like, I remember getting, like, a game, it was Assassin's Creed Revelations. Like, after talking about it so much, I had to, like, rethink with it. But I got Assassin's Creed Revelations. And the good thing about that game is that was the third or the fourth installment of the games.
Mm-hmm.
But
this is the fourth.
It is the fourth, right? So, but this game harkened back to the two other games. Mm-hmm. So by the time I finished playing this game, I was like, I'm going to go play it from the beginning now. So then I played it, and then I was fascinated with Ezio. I was mesmerized by the way that he moved, the hidden blades, the parkour. Like in England, like parkour was like huge at one point, and me and my friends would travel up to London, and we would like jump off of buildings and climb up shit and film ourselves doing it. So I had like a real connection with it there. So then to have a video game where it was almost like a superhero, but it wasn't a superhero, and it was the Hood. And AJ Styles is my favorite wrestler. So I was just like, oh, the Hood, like everything connected. So I was just like, I am Assassin's Creed. And like I went out on the Hoods, and like the whole method behind it was Greg was just like, do you want to come do this interview? So like the whole method behind it was just like you have 6 seconds to win a crowd over. The moment you walk through a curtain, you've got 6 seconds to really be like a part of it and to really get their attention. So I came in with that Hood, and people understood, oh, he's the Assassin's Creed. Oh, like I get it. Okay, let's go with it. Let's rock and roll. So that's the reason why I wanted to like go down that route.
God, I love it. It's so
yeah. And by the way, for anybody who's gonna like tweet at me and correct me, I know that Assassin's Creed Revelations is technically not part of the numbered series, but it was the 4th game released, but it's technically not officially numbered.
Yeah,
I know that.
It's 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations.
Yes.
There you go.
3.
Yeah, and the Revolution was the 4th game released, but technically there is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I know that. But anyway, so yeah, I again, no, that's just talking about that inspiration on you is really cool. I wanted to talk a little bit more about because you really have gotten to talk a lot about AJ Styles and his influence on you and what he's meant to you as a performer. When you wrestled in TNA earlier this year, you really talked about some of your experience with the promotion at that time and growing up watching it and things along those lines. And then you also mentioned AJ Styles. Did you have much of a relationship with AJ Styles as you mentioned him putting you over on the way out when he left in 2016 in New Japan?
Yeah, I mean, I love telling people this story. The last time I saw AJ before he debuted in the Rumble, we were in a service station eating chicken nuggets together. Like, so that's why I was like, when he debuted, I was like, fucking hell, we were just eating chicken nuggets a little while ago. Like, so having that, and like AJ was on the phone to me when it was trying to, I guess the right word would be sway in making my decision of which company I should be going towards. And it flatters me, man, because AJ is my hero. Like everything I wanted to become, like I still remember it to this day, man, 14 years old. And he grabbed that top rope, he jumped to the top rope and then a shooting star press onto Joe and Daniels, which is crazy because I walk past them all the time in the dressing room now.
Right?
I'm just like, Like stuff like that blows my mind all the time. Where I'm just like, you guys don't have any idea. Like you guys are in a weird way raised this generation of kids. Like I am like a product of what you guys did. So then having like I had like a relationship of like talking terms. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's always kept an eye on me, and like I feel like even now, because I guess that's what the phone call's about. But like he always keeps an eye on me every now and again. But like. It was just for me coming here was the right thing to do. Like, do you know what I mean? So I just knew like coming here, I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be part of like a change in the culture of what AEW is, and I just want to be like, if I'm working this hard, what's everyone else's excuse? Do you know what I mean? So like, I just like I've got a mad work ethic. I just want to I want to give fans something to be excited about, and just like, and I feel like that's whenever AJ was wrestling, I watched how he worked. I watched how his style would translate through the camera and within the live audience. You could tell the man was grafting. And I think that's what I am, man. I'm a grafter at heart. I used to work in building sites, do you know what I mean? And I'd do people's windows and bathrooms and shit like that. That was me. I was a grafter back then. I didn't like doing it, but I still did it. But like my main graft is professional wrestling, and that's what translates to me. Like I want to be part of like this generation of grafters, man.
It's crazy that like I have that same feeling backstage when you're walking past guys like Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels, and you're like, these guys were the guys. Like, how does it feel to be the guy that kids are living up to, that kids are going to be joining AEW when you're old and frail and nearing the end of your career, and they're going to say, you're the guy that made me want to get into professional wrestling?
Honestly, that would make me so happy. I can't tell you enough, because like getting to tell AJ how much he meant to me as a performer before he left, like that means the world to me. And like if it just could be passed on, man, like if there's anything that I would love people to say, just like at the end of it, I was a lovely wrestler, I was a great wrestler, but just even if it was like he's an idiot but he's really nice, like, do you know what I mean? And that's all I care about, do you know what I mean? Like, as much as I appreciate the fans' respect, that means the world to me, right? But having the boys in the back and the girls just go like, he's nice, that's like something that like guys like Brian, like, do you know what I mean? Just like the work ethic and the longevity and the fact that he doesn't need to do this.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't need to do it. He just loves wrestling. And that enthusiasm is just super infectious. It infects me, man. Like, it's that work ethic, the enthusiasm for what professional wrestling is. That's what I want to translate to what people see with me.
Well, your enthusiasm is infectious, because I'm even more excited to show up to work every week, because I see the work you're putting in. I see the time of your life that you're having. And even though you might be an idiot, you are a wonderful, charming man.
Oh, Bess, you're flattering me so much.
Oh, well, I'm just so happy that you came and chatted with us today. And sorry to interrupt your dinner, but I appreciate you tuning in and having a chat with us. It was great.
It's all right. I'm going to go read a bedtime story to my boy now.
Oh, wonderful. Look at this family, man. I love it.
Yeah, mate. But you laugh, though. I could barely read the words. He corrects me all the time. It's the funny bit where I'm reading it, and he just goes, actually, it says this. And I'm just like, all right, I get it. I can't read. Like,
again, charming, but an idiot. Thank you so much for joining us today, Will Ospreay. You can watch Dynamite Wednesdays on TBS. You can watch Rampage on Fridays on TNT and Collision on TNT on Saturdays. I'm Aubrey Edwards along with Will Washington. Listen to this podcast every Thursday. Thank you so much for listening to AEW Unrestricted.